For easier analysis, it's best to ask your friend with the camera to stay in your line, possibly in the foreline, and you should try to ski towards the camera. Otherwise, you are doing the same thing as we are with this shot. Here, we can only guess at the main guidelines and key points. Despite this, I still chosen that recording because all the other 7 ski runs were based more or less on the same concept. However, this one was shot 7 years and 1 injury earlier. It shows major differences with definitely lower skills. However, connections in movement patterns are still visible. Immediately after the first transition, the skis are twisted into the new turn. In the case of a modern, fluent short turn, we want to see a consistent path of the skis as they come from the previous turn and glide further to the next without a break in their direction. Here, there is a harsh break. And even worse, the direction change is initiated with the tail of the ski using a pivot point at the tip. On the other hand, the movement pattern itself is progressive for the future, as it's paired with the feet and the legs and has a separational layer at the hips. It cannot influence the torso. So the movement is not that bad, but the location in the turn, the timing is bad. The intention of steering starts without any ski-snow contact, and as a result, it leads to skidding, which is a failure. He doesn't listen to the feedback from the snow, he only forces the ski to turn. For high-level control, steering requires a certain edge angle and grip. So the proper sequence is edging, then steering, and not vice versa. The correction is here, he should wait until the edge angle develops and start the steering later around the apex. Without visible movement, an anticipatory muscle tension of the same movement pattern can begin during the initiation before the apex. Then, when the feeling of edge grip from the snow gently arrives, a powerful rear steering can begin. Only this modification in timing can cause so much change that the style of skiing can be quite different. If I were his coach, then I wouldn't give any other instructions until he worked this out. As a lesson, it's worth comparing the first and the second examples to see how many common patterns can be found in 2 such different skiing styles, and how many movement patterns were already present 7 years back, but weren't implemented in the proper place or where they do not have any consistent location. For example, a few turns later, the same pattern happens at a very different timing after the apex during the completion, but again without connecting the snow ski feedback. It looks like he feels some good movement and tries to put it randomly into the turn, like experimenting. There is another important lesson to be learned from this run. Here, he starts to rotate the skis, but there is a timing shift between the legs. The uphill, upcoming outside leg starts the rotation, but the downhill, upcoming inside, leg follows with a delay, which is enough to result in a wedge position of the skis. I'm unhappy with the wedge, but this is just a sign, not a problem. The real problem consists of many parts. First, the lack of downhill leg tipping results in a later edge grip and a different turn shape. Second, normally the inside leg's rotation engages the inside hip muscles, which are responsible for stabilizing the pelvis and the upper body, similar to the walking-running gait cycle, where the swing's legs function is the stabilization of the pelvis. Here, those muscles remain passive, so they cannot stabilize the upper body properly. If there is a slight time shift, it must be oppositely, the downhill leg should start first. In summary, This run is a good example to discover common movement patterns in very different skiings. At the first glance, they appear to be entirely different kinds of skiing. But after a thorough analysis, we can discover more and more common movement patterns. If we already identified those patterns, it helps to see the timing errors, how implementing a pattern without connecting to the snow ski feedback can ruin the skiing, and other relationships.